After a year of talking about a Grand Prix, Adelaide finally came alive early this afternoon when the cream of the Formula One circuit had their first taste of the track. Fittingly, Australia's former world champion Alan Jones was first out in his Beatrice Lola. Naturally, the early laps were taken at a fairly leisurely pace, but it wasn't long before the drivers started having a go. Brazilian Ayrton Senna was the first to record 1 minute 26 for the 3.8 kilometre circuit. It wasn't long before the winner of the past two races, Nigel Mansell, in his Williams Honda, joined Senna on the same time, and then another four drivers reached the early benchmark. While the times accelerated, Martin Brundle's Tyrrell caught a light when he returned to the racecourse section of the track. The world champion-elect Alain Prost spun the McLaren, which typifies how difficult it is to manhandle 1,000 brake horsepower around the always tight and demanding street circuits. Tyrrell again had problems hitting a concrete barrier. This time it was Brundle's co-driver Capelli. And former world champion Brazilian Nelson Piquet, having his last drive with Brabham, also had difficulty trying to find the right way round the circuit. Mansell also went for a quick twirl. Practice will continue tomorrow when the times are sure to get even faster. John Parrington, 7 National News.
In today's final qualifying session for the Australian Grand Prix, Brazilian Ayrton Senna demonstrated his remarkable ability in no uncertain terms. The 25-year-old Lotus driver just kept on driving harder until the opposition could chase no more. In the fastest ever lap around the new course, Senna recorded 1:19.843, 3/4 of a second faster than Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda. It was the 7th time this season Senna had taken pole, and did he think it was a good lap?
It was so quick that I can't remember. Yes, honestly, I don't remember, because when you go with that much effort, you concentrate so much in each second that the second later you forgot the one before, because it takes so much from you that it's very difficult to remember what you have done 2 corners earlier.
In a seesawing battle, Senna played cat and mouse with Nigel Mansell, both of them taking to the track several times and briefly holding pole. Mansell did his fastest lap on race tyres and was very happy with the car's performance, but predicted a tough race.
So I think it's probably going to be the toughest race of all year. For the heat, the concentration and the lack of grip on some corners, you only have to be sometimes 6 inches offline and you could literally slide into the wall. So it's going to be very tough for 82 laps, and I think it will be a 2-hour race anyway.
The spectacular mistake of the day belonged to Alain Prost in the McLaren. He and teammate Lauda concentrated on setting up the cars for race trim and will be a very strong tip tomorrow. So the top 6 for the race includes Ayrton Senna in the Lotus, Nigel Mansell and Keke Rosberg both in Williams, Alain Prost, Michele Alboreto and Mark Suro. So the scene is set for what promises to be a very exciting race here tomorrow in Adelaide. The only question mark is whether the cars will withstand some of the high temperatures that have been forecast here in Adelaide tomorrow. At the Adelaide Grand Prix, Neil Crompton, 7 National News.
But for Adelaide, the end of an era. After 10 years in the city of churches, the Grand Prix is heading for Melbourne. Tony Morabito reflects on a decade of drama.
10 years ago, it didn't seem real. Some expected Adelaide to stumble blinking into the glare of the world spotlight. Instead, it rose to standards few could match. Adelaide's first race was Niki Lauda's last. But as one triple world champion left, another arrived.
That is the pole position man, the brilliant Ayrton Senna.
At the start of Adelaide's first race, Senna's wheel-banging duel with Nigel Mansell cost him first place to Keke Rosberg. But the brash Brazilian fought back, staging a show that instantly won him a legion of Adelaide fans. The track seemed too confined a space to contain his exuberance. At one point he punted into Rosberg's rear and lost a front wing. Again he recovered and led the race until passed by Lauda, who was then let down by steering failure.
Niki Lauda, and off he goes. Niki Lauda's lost it.
Senna was back in front until his machinery also gave in to the harshness of that new street circuit. Victory was Rosberg's, and no one could wait until 1986. That race became the first of Adelaide's 2 World Championship deciders, a 3-way shootout between Williams teammates Mansell and Piquet and reigning champion Prost. The Englishmen seemed to have it wrapped up until everything unravelled in a split second.
And look at that! Out that, and colossally, that's Mansell!
That put Piquet in the box seat until
Williams called Piquet in for safety. Turned out the tyre was okay, and Prost went on to become the first man since our own Sir Jack Brabham to retain the world title in successive years.
But if Mansell's blowout was a defining image in the sport's history, so was this.
Senna swimming his way through.
We endured it twice in 1989 and 91. The latter earned Adelaide a place in the record book.
1991 will live in our memories as the shortest race in Grand Prix history, declared at 14 laps instead of 81.
As the last race of the season, Adelaide's atmosphere traditionally has been two-edged.
Ayrton has a small problem. He thinks that he can't kill himself.
In the end, he makes me laugh because he's the guy that has complained so much.
Prost doesn't worry me at all in the car. But what he's able to do out of the car is shocking.
But some drivers have been stars of the non-exploding variety, like the only man to compete in every Adelaide Grand Prix. Gerhard Berger won twice, with Ferrari in 1987 and McLaren in 1992, when he finished less than a second ahead of Michael Schumacher. But that victory was overshadowed by 2 of those stars who loved to hate each other.
They'll both go out! Senna, Mansell was destined not to finish the Australian Grand Prix.
The man Mansell and Senna both hated, Prost, won in 1988. Berger had been knocked out by a backmarker while leading comfortably. In 1990, the same corner provided this highlight. On the last lap, Piquet leads. Mansell tries to dive ahead but fails, conceding the race to Piquet. Mansell finally tasted victory in 1994. However, the race will be remembered as Adelaide's second championship decider. Schumacher and Hill settled the issue with a crash.
If Damon's suspension had just not been bent in that accident, Damon Hill might have been world champion like his father before him.
A man who was world champion always showed why in Australia. Ayrton Senna almost owned Adelaide's pole position. The circuit was also the scene of his final victory. Senna won despite a vastly inferior car. Second, Alain Prost. And that brings us back to their Star Wars, for it was on this day, 6 months before Senna's death, that they ended. Senna publicly granted Prost's wish for a reconciliation, an unforgettable moment from men who'd once ignored each other on the podium. It only seemed possible in the special spirit of Adelaide.
And that is sports tonight for Sunday, the 12th of November. Thanks for joining us. A dramatic finish to Adelaide's Grand Prix history today, and that's where we'll leave you tonight. High-powered action from the City of Churches. Good night.
This result has gone into the history books as the largest crowd attendance at a Formula One race since the modern World Championship was established.
I see the light in the shade of the morning sun. My morning sun is a drug that brings me near to the child I lost.
Wonderful, look at that. Thank you, Adelaide. That's the mechanics, by the way, of Schumacher's car.
That my life would depend on.
And Damon Hill wins the Australian Grand Prix, the grand finale at Adelaide.
Steady now, Keki. Not yet, Elaine. Clamp your eyes hard on that light. Michaeli's selecting. Ayrton's a rev. Seconds away from the light. Millions of race fans all over the world. Everyone poised for the gun. Adelaide Stunner is finally on. It's fair dinkum Formula One. Adelaide comes alive, November 85. This is one show no one wants to miss.
Nelson, Piquet and Mansell together, and it's going a superb start from Nigel Mansell. Senna goes through to second place ahead of Piquet. The 2 McLarens slot in behind them into the chicane. Is anybody going to go off this year? It looks to me as though they're bunching up well and getting through. No problems at the chicane, and Senna is challenging for the start, and he goes through and he takes the lead. Senna takes the lead on the right-hander at Wakefield Turn. Now up to East Terrace Bend, the left-hand hander. It's Senna, Mansell, Piquet, and the McLaren going through ahead of the Williams and coming towards us. It is Ayrton Senna in the lead. It is Piquet second. It is Rosberg in third position. Mansell is down to fourth position. Well, there's a turn up for the book because Nigel Mansell has lost his lead and Gerhard Berger is well up. And look at the way that the first three are breaking away. Senna, the Williams and the McLaren absolutely together, and Piquet going through and trying to take Senna. One Brazilian passes another, and we've got a third leader before even one lap has been completed. And it is Piquet, Senna, Rosberg, Mansell and then Prost. Piquet leading for Williams Honda, then Senna, there he is, and Rosberg is going through. Keke Rosberg charging, he means to win this one. And in the background you see Ayrton Senna with Nigel Mansell right behind him and going through, I do believe, Nigel Mansell going through and taking third position. So it's Mansell third, Senna fourth, Prost fifth, Berger sixth, with still a long way to go. Watch the action. Keke Rosberg in front of Nelson Piquet, so Rosberg leads the Australian Grand Prix, and that's the first time he's been at the front of a Grand Prix since he left the Williams Honda team. And there is the Minardi, one of the Minardis, and it is the car of Alessandro Nannini, who has driven beautifully smoothly all season.
There is Alain Prost, who has got in front of Nigel Mansell. So Prost has passed Mansell. Prost now in third place, and Mansell at the moment in fourth place, but still in the championship winning position, courtesy of Keke Rosberg, who's out front.
Seventh position, filling straight. Eighth, Riccardo Patrese. Ninth, Gerhard Berger, and off speeds Piquet. Wowee! Now, Piquet goes off, Prost goes through. Now we have the two McLarens, first and second. Rosberg leads and Prost is second. This could change the race.
And Mansell went through, so that's put Mansell into third place.
Alain Prost on lap 33 is into the pits for his expected tyre change at about the right time. And this is a bad change by modern standards, over 17 seconds, and that is not good. That could be critical. Piquet is certainly going, he's certainly intending to have second place, and he takes it. And Nigel Mansell didn't fight there. I think, as James has suggested, Nigel Mansell is using every ounce of his considerable intelligence, acumen and experience and letting Piquet go through, knowing that if he stays where he is, he's still going to be world champion. Rosberg out! Keke Rosberg is out of the Australian Grand Prix. If this isn't a sensation, I would like to know what is. Commiseration, sympathy and all the other appropriate words for Keke Rosberg. He may have been prepared to move over. And look at that! And colossally, that's Mansell! That is Nigel Mansell, and the car absolutely shattered. He's fighting for control, and you can see what's happened. Mansell is out of the race. Now, this could change and will change the World Championship.
What an absolute tragedy for Mansell. Obviously, the tyres went at almost the same time as Keke Rosberg, so there's a wear problem. Piquet must be made aware of that by radio, because it means he with his tyres will have been here. We're going to see what happened again, and that's an absolute tragedy, because that means that poor Mansell, that is terrible at the last moment.
Into the pits goes the Williams.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if his team didn't call him in, because they will have seen on a TV monitor that two people have lost these tyres. Nelson was running the same tyres, and so Prost is now a favourite to win the World Championship if he can hold on.
And Alain Prost is virtually within sight of his 25th Grand Prix, his second World Championship, an absolutely superb achievement. You have seen the crowd rising to this popular little Frenchman who has demonstrated yet again that he's the driver of the day, and he takes the checkered flag. He wins the Australian Grand Prix. He wins the World Championship of 1986. Absolute euphoria in the McLaren pit. Look at him, he can hardly believe it himself.
Formula One, the world's most exciting and glamorous sport, has a new sight, a new sound, and it's coming to Adelaide for the Foster's Australian Grand Prix, November 2 to 5. 4 days and nights of electric atmosphere as the fastest men in the world go for glory. Nine's wide world of sports brings you all the action from the Foster's Australian Grand Prix when Adelaide comes alive.
The ultimate event, and for good reason. No show on earth combines excitement, glamour and visual thrill like Grand Prix racing, and the Australians have come to appreciate that. The Adelaide Street Circuit is widely accepted as the best of its kind in the world. Race commentator Tony Jardine takes us round a lap of the track with Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton Senna, the new world champion in his McLaren, a master at Adelaide, but he's never won here before. Going along with him on a lap up to the first chicane. Note those big curbs on the inside and the outside. They look relatively flat, but they're not. They're quite dangerous. Look at the shake inside the cockpit as well. A tremendously difficult job for the drivers here in Adelaide. Concrete walls lining the edge of the track. The surface looks smooth, but it's not. It's low grip. Look at the way Ayrton Senna's having to work in the cockpit now. As he heads towards East Terrace and towards Stag Bend, you can see the pubs and clubs on the left. Here's Stag, infamous corner up on those big curves, which can launch the car perilously towards those unyielding concrete walls. Senna now up into 6th gear. He's gone along the Jones Straight, along the Brabham Straight, flat out now. Tremendous speed, nearly 200 miles per hour. And down at the bottom, it's from 6th down into 2nd gear, a very tight hairpin right-hander, and then a flowing left. But look at those curbs, look at the traps there. And Senna, accurate as ever, despite the bumps and the shaking about that he receives inside the McLaren. The last corner back onto the pit straight, a vital one, and you can see how close the wall and the marshals there are as Senna completes a lap in the McLaren Honda.
His next Formula One World Championship contender is waiting in the wings, then perhaps we'll find him among the hot shots of the Formula Ford Series. The open-wheeler Colts were on the track today. Following their progress, Alan Jones and Darrell Eastlake.
Here we go, just seconds away. Wojnowski in the black car gets away nicely. Webber, though, goes straight to the front. And then sitting in behind him is Gavin Monahan. So they've really come off the grid. There's a very wide line taken from Webber.
Oh, dear. Oh, good
Monahan.
avoidance. Well, Monahan actually did a better start. Oh, dearie me. I hope that wasn't an answer car. I hope they don't stop the race because of all this nonsense.
Well, they will, I think. Yes, I think they'll have to, AJ. I mean, I can't really see anyone getting through there. Total carnage. Now, of course, because these little cars, they will climb over each other with the exposed wheels.
Well, that's right. I mean, they're all young, aggressive drivers in these things. And as I said before, there's only 1 or 2 horsepower probably separates the whole lot of them. They're all it's very hard to get away, and they're all young and aggressive, and no one wants to give an inch. And of course, when you're going to a corner like this with so many cars, 40-odd entries, here we go now. See, Monahan actually went in far too deep, tried to take the inside line from Webber, lost it under brakes, and spun around. Darren Payton nearly got him. And now they're all trying to take avoiding action, but of course, it's very hard to see over the car in front, and crash. There you go. I think that was Bargwana that got him, one of the Bargwana brothers.
As a result of that one, Gavin Monahan was taken to hospital with a suspected fractured leg. After a restart more than 30 minutes later, Mark Webber bolted to the front, but trouble in the Formula Fords is never far away.
Webber out in front of the Yellow Pages car. He's been quite a star this year.
Oh dear, look at this. Formula Ford again. Now I can only hope that there's certainly not going to be able to untangle that, I wouldn't think, in a lap, so we might even have another red flag situation again. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the clerk, of course, says, righto, boys, you've had 2 chances, that's it, we're going to cancel it.
But the marshals managed to clear that one in the space of 1 lap, and the race finally settled down, at least for a few minutes.
You hop in one of these things and they slide around, under brakes. That's Pontaparis. Always a very aggressive driver, Con, and is prone to making a few mistakes from time to time. But he's obviously gone in there just a bit too quick and gone up the escape road because of it.
So Jason Bright, one of the bright new stars in Australian motorsport, chasing arch rival Mark Webber at the moment.
But as I was saying, when they come out of go-karting and they get into Formula Fords, these things slide around so much more. Oh, Jason Bright just went in far too quick, understeered, and then hit the fence and bounced from the wall back over to the left-hand side of the circuit. That was good. That was quite a hard shunt.
Well, he's out. There's another car out there.
Damien Lurry from Queensland.
Well, they're everywhere here. I mean, they have to learn to come to grips with a track like this with so many walls. We've seen a lot of damage in this class, in the open wheeler class, as a matter of fact. And there's Jason Bright leading the race. One little mistake, as we said, bang, and that's expensive.
This is what it's all about, this formula. See, they're all pulling out to try and stop each other from getting a tow. Go on the inside under brakes, locking up, nearly touching.
But that's what we mean about learning to race. I mean, you're going to touch wheels with these things because they stick out further than those cars. They're even horsepower. They're much the same under brakes. So this is the great nursery, isn't it? This is the nursery for Formula One.
Absolutely, because they are... Oh, there's another one, looks like understeered in there as well. But because they are so close in horsepower, it's very difficult to get away from the guy behind you. And it's imperative that you get a slipstream to be able to use the guy in front of you to break the air so you can pull out and perhaps get him under brakes.
Well, another car off there. Oh, and Webber gets airborne. Oh, Noski gets airborne. No one's going round. There you go.
See, that's stupid.
There you go. There he goes. Well, and that's one of AJ's cars. Mark Noski out.
Well, you know, with all due respect, that was a silly move. Absolutely no need to do that at all. He's just gone into this too quick. Gone over. The cars will not cop that sort of punishment. He's gone over the curbs. He's deranged the suspension in doing so. You can see a replay now. Webber's done the same thing. Now, whether there's a bit of oil there or not, I'm not sure. But see, look, the cars go high now. Mark comes in even quicker. Crash, over it again. Deranged underneath the cake. See the left-hand wheel off the ground. Now, Mark should have realised that there was something wrong there, and he's still got his foot in. He's gone onto the gravel on the outside there. Lucky not to have rolled the car, and then into the fence. And there you go. Thank you very much. Back to the workshop for more repairs.
So Mark Webber comes around lucky to get through that. And comes up over the start-finish line now. So he'll take this race, a very interesting race, quite controversial in a lot of areas. Incident-packed, no doubt about that.
Look at this for third.
And this is really on here. We'll pick it up as it comes across the line.
Yeah, it's Darren Pate. Good on you, Darren.
So Darren Pate gets into third place, and a bit lucky through all the carnage, but that's what motorsport's all about. But this man, they say he's lucky, but you make your own luck. Mark Webber acknowledges the crowd there. Good drive from him.
It was a good drive, but he was a little bit lucky because he could have deranged his car just as easily as Mark did. He got away with it, so he'll get the trophy.
Right, let's recap the results as you look at the wreckage around this racetrack. Boy, oh boy, 39 cars started. I'm not sure how many finished, but some of them quite bent. Mark Webber, he's taken out this race in front of the Grand Prix crowd. Bargwanna was second, Pate was third, and then it was Giuseppe and Fowler and Lindstrom. That's how they finished in the Formula Fords, and boy, oh boy, I think we're lucky to get that many home.
Driving a Formula One car when it's right is the most amazing buzz you will ever imagine.
The first thing you need is to be quick.
Today I sat next to Sterling Moss, and then all of a sudden I go to another place and I sit down and there's Fangio sitting next to me.
The Australian Grand Prix is without doubt the best Grand Prix of the year. Simply the best.
Bloody great. I mean, you're playing with your life sometimes.
I think it's definitely the ultimate.
I knew that at that stage nobody else could improve. I had on the radio a message that Prost had just done his second set of tyres.
Best idea really is to have all 16 races here.
You've chosen the right place.
In my last video, I talked about the Adelaide Street Circuit for 15 minutes straight. I'm going to talk about it for a few more minutes here, its proposals in particular. My source for these is Matt Koch's brilliant Speed Cafe article from 2020, which I've put a link to in the description if you want to check it out, and I recommend you do. Let's start with the first ever proposal from 1983, which was penned by Bill O'Gorman, the man who was instrumental in bringing Formula One to Adelaide. This design came with O'Gorman's initial letter to John Bannon, the Premier of the state of South Australia, where he made his case for holding a Formula One race in the city. It's located just to the northeast of the current track. The proposal is 4.6 kilometres long, anti-clockwise, and by my count, has 18 corners. The 800-metre start-finish straight is on King William Road, and after a long flat-out blast going downhill from North Terrace, stops just short of the bridge and turns hard right onto Victoria Drive. I can't say for sure what side of King William Road would have been reserved for the pit lane, but I think it would have been on the driver's right, and the exit would likely have been on the inside of Turn 1, but that's just pure conjecture on my part. Take it with a full bag of salt. The elevation stays roughly level on the south shore of the river as we go full throttle through turns 2 and 3 past the University of Adelaide. The next braking zone is into turn 4, a sharp medium-speed left-hander. Runoff in this section would be sparing, but pretty standard for the early 1980s. My gut tells me turn 4 would be taken in third gear, depending on the setup of the car. A short straight takes us to a section that probably wouldn't have passed F1 safety standards by the mid-1990s. It would have seen cars braking through a hard left onto the Albert Bridge with no possibility for runoff area. It leads straight into a 90-degree left-hander that takes us off Frome Road and onto War Memorial Drive. For me, this is the most interesting part of the track. Another left-hand turn takes us uphill to a sweeping right-hander around Red Gum Park, cresting in the middle of the turn before plunging downhill again. At the bottom is a right-handed kink that might have been flat out if the driver was brave enough. Then, as the road starts another uphill grade, there's another 2 kinks to the left and right on the way into the next heavy braking zone. This sharp left might have had a wide exit, taking us briefly onto Sir Edwin Smith Avenue and passing the statue of Sir Donald Bradman and going downhill once more. After that, we get back onto War Memorial Drive and pass by Adelaide Oval, where there's another right-hand sweeper waiting to catch the driver out. Once again, this is a place where I don't think too much runoff area could be implemented. Somehow I doubt people would be happy if a significant portion of Pinky Flat was felled for a gravel trap. Then a curved braking zone spits us out into another 90-degree left onto Montefiore Road, across the river again and back towards the Adelaide CBD. Around where Montefiore Road becomes Morfett Street, drivers would have had to prepare for what looks like the most difficult braking zone on the lap. Adelaide is a planned city, and its road grid, designed by Colonel William Light, incorporated 6 town squares, 1 in the north portion and 5 in what would become central Adelaide. The one that bears his name, Light Square, would have made turns 16 and 17 a hell of a challenge. Going slightly uphill from a top speed of around 280 clicks, potentially more, drivers would have had to brake hard through a left bend, making sure not to lock up on the way through. They would continue slowing while bearing right to open up the left turn onto Curry Street as much as possible. This may have been the part of the circuit where the most crashes happened. A long straight and a braking zone where the track leans one way and then the other, on the way into a turn that would have prioritised mid-corner speed to keep up pace down the following straight. A hefty combination. Can I see this being used for racing nowadays? Absolutely not, unless there was a slow chicane before it. Who knows, we might have seen just that. After the Curry Street straight, once more with feeling. A 90-degree left to take the driver back onto King William Road and end the lap. It's incredibly different to the circuit we know and love, but seems to have a fun variety of corners, particularly in the middle sector, and the surroundings are certainly a what's what of the city, passing by many Adelaide landmarks and crossing the river twice. It may not have had as much longevity as the real Adelaide Street Circuit, and safety standards would have caught up to it fairly quickly, but this original proposal is certainly interesting. I wish I could say the same about the second proposal. Okay, that might be doing it a disservice. The second proposed layout does have a few interesting elements, mainly the fact that it's nothing but straights. Also, you might have noticed that it's close to the layout that ended up being used. About 1.8 kilometers of this clockwise plan would later form parts of the final circuit that F1 used in the 80s and 90s. But this one, for all of its 8 turns that I count, is public roads, with no purpose-built section for the pits and paddock. The start-finish straight would have been on Duquetteville Terrace, which would form the Brabham Straight on the final track, and the super slow Duquetteville hairpin would have been turn 1. From there, a ridiculously long 1.5 kilometer straight takes the driver up Wakefield Road. On the way, we pass the site of the Victoria Park Racecourse, where the current track's purpose-built section is located. The second proper corner is a 90-degree right-hander onto Pulteney Street. Sorry to all the Adelaideans watching if I pronounce that wrong, please don't murder me. We proceed north for another 500-ish meters until we get to Hindmarsh Square, where another right turn is made onto Grenfell Street. At the end of this straight is turns 4 and 5, a 90-degree switchback negotiating East Terrace. This is where the actual circuit is rejoined, at the site of the old S-bend at the end of Hutt Street. From there, it's basically the same as the track F1 raced on, a straight down Rundle Road to the final corners. Now here is where I'm not too certain on the configuration. The Speed Cafe article does show the turns as they are seen here, but it uses the automated directions function of Google Maps to illustrate the route, and that shows you how you would actually need to drive the roads in real-life traffic. So it's a bit unclear to me. Is this layout correct? Or was the plan already in place to have the quick flick of Brewery Corner? I can't say for sure. Either way, that's the end of the lap and, well, can you imagine if this is what they went with? Jacques Lafitte apparently approved of it. This would have been a low downforce blast where slipstreaming and raw power would decide on-track battles. It would have been just as hard on the brakes as the current layout is, and having the Duquetteville hairpin as the first turn would be a recipe for carnage at race starts. It's nice to think of a street circuit version of Monza or even Silverstone, but all things considered, I'm glad they went with the layout they did. It certainly proved its worth. If you've stuck around to this point, thanks for going on this little journey with me into what might have been, and
I call you, I need you, my heart's on fire. You come to me wild and wild. You come to me, give me everything.
De Angelis behind him. They've got the wings set up to give them the best possible compromise between downforce and speed on the straight, and you can tell from the way that Senna is throwing the car about as he comes up behind Felix Streff, the Frenchman, who moves over and gives him room. That was a good bit of driving. Streff used his mirrors intelligently. He cleared the way for Senna, and Senna is blasting, James.
Yep, Senna is very much on a quick one. We tend to think of him as being very experienced. Yesterday he showed a bit of an experience. He was a bit untidy with the car in, as it were, trying too hard. He was pushing too hard, got a bit ragged and didn't go very well. His opening lap here today when he had his first run was very much better, and he looks pretty smooth this time because he's got something like just over half a second, or just under half a second, I should say, to make up on Nigel Mansell, and believe me, he'll be very keen to get another pole position. So Ayrton Senna absolutely on the limit. Into the apex, getting the line through the corner, making the corner, smoothing it out as best he can, just clipping the curb there on the inside and then sliding it out to the exit, riding up the curb. And this is sensational. And I have to say, I don't think anybody's going to beat that. If I had to put money on it, I'd say that won't be beaten today.
Senna bounced back today with a sizzling qualifying lap to shatter the track record.
Day 2, the temperature and the pace of the Australian Grand Prix are increasing by the minute.
Hot conditions with the temperature soaring into the high 20s made fast times difficult today. Drivers anxious to improve on yesterday's performances underestimated the tough street circuit and paid the penalty. American Eddie Cheever spun out during the practice session, and Frenchman Olivier Griard repeated his spinning act of yesterday, again showing his inability to handle the Adelaide track. Martin Brundle also found it difficult to control his Brabham. Nelson Piquet's practice run came to a sudden halt when he collided with Nigel Mansell, forcing the Ferrari back to the pits for a quick repair job on a clipped wing. The final qualifying session produced the characteristically aggressive driving of Ayrton Senna. Despite increasing heat, the Brazilian moved into overdrive to take pole position on his first fast lap, bettering his time from yesterday and edging ahead of bitter rival Alain Prost's first qualifying time by 0.8 of a second.
Let's see where the clock stops. 1:16.665. That's exactly as I said. He has knocked half a second off his previous time.
Prost attempted to improve on his time, but the Frenchman couldn't match the zip of Senna, a noted street fighter.
No, and that doesn't even improve on his yesterday's time. So that pretty much means it's all over as far as the front row of the grid is concerned.
Very few improved on their times, but one who did was Nigel Mansell. The Ferrari team spent the night working on alterations to the Britain's car after poor times yesterday.
In the past, Australian Grand Prix spectators have grown used to the screaming of the cars as they travel down the straight and the almost gun-like sound as they take tight corners. And this is the reason, the turbocharged engine. This year the turbos are out and the V8s, 10s and 12s are in. The normally aspirated sound is far deeper and the popping of the turbo is gone. But away from the all but deafening noises, there's a totally different level of sound for the drivers and their pit crews. Most teams have a radio system installed so the drivers and their crew communicate instantly.
It's a little bit understeering the car. These tires are not in a very bad condition, so we can have another run to check the volume.
The crew continually check with drivers to see the cars are being set up properly in practice times. As an example, Benetton's Emmanuel Pirot queries the crew about his tyres. They refer him to their other driver, Alessandro Nannini.
Sandro is running the high downforce setup now. So let's just see what he's got to say or how it changes the balance.
The drivers check constantly where they're placed.
Senna's done 21.0, and then you're probably the second quickest car on full tanks. Same time as Prost and Booton.
Then there are the personal comments such as Martin Brundle in the Brabham as he tries to get a clear lap.
No, I had to do an extra lap. Larini came out of the pit, so I was heading first corner. I got a big wobbly on the shit.
And Ayrton Senna wanting to know what Prost's time was.
Put on my board when I come next, I'll have lap time. I'll have lap time. Put on my board when I come. Okay. Ayrton, I'm just going on what happened so far. There is a lot of cars left with a lot of tyres. It's going to get very busy at the end. Okay, so we'll look for a gap then.
Mike Sexton, National 9.
The beer, the buddies,
and the steady throbbing sound of high-powered machinery. The girls can say what they like, but it's plain for all to see. In this macho mainstream, if you've got something to sell, the best form of advertising is... Mind you, it was plenty hot enough without that sort of thing. The Euro was tipping 28 degrees. By 2 o'clock it was already 30, and it was several degrees warmer down here at the track. Certainly warm enough to bring a touch of colour to your face. Still, some hardly found time to pack it all in. But as the day wore on, others were starting to sag. As Senna seared the circuit, they were sweating it out in the stands. There were those who couldn't take it and headed for the shade, and this kid who had it both ways. But even with the top guns out on the track, it seemed not everyone wanted to look at the cars. Some preferred to look at the cars, or perhaps just look at the cars. But that old Grand Prix spirit was alive and well on the catwalk of all places. This miss showed all the determination of a sworn-off Senna, while this little fella knows you never give up, even when your flag falls off. Tim Parker, National 9 News.
Back to racing, and our cameraman Eddie Cheever, supplementing Channel 9's award-winning coverage, provided some spectacular final qualifying footage. After having trouble earlier in the season extracting himself from his car in the regulation 5 seconds, Eddie managed it perfectly this time. Piercarlo Cinsani had also announced his retirement from Grand Prix racing, and to the great delight of his mechanics, managed to get the Osella through pre-qualifying and qualify 21st for his last Grand Prix. Formula One's older statesman, René Arnoux, was also retiring from Grand Prix racing, and after a little speech at the drivers' briefing, rather touchingly gave all his colleagues a present. No one was rude enough to suggest that they might be from his collection of unused rear-view mirrors. Gerhard Berger would certainly need one, for he was starting way back in 14th place after a problem-filled practice. Teammate Nigel Mansell, 6th, had almost exclusive use of the spare car. Traction is a strong point of the new Williamses, putting Riccardo Patrese and Thierry Boutsen on row 3. Alessandro Nannini was 4th on the grid in the Benetton, using a new Ford development engine. Pierluigi Martini went even better than he had in Spain and Portugal, with a superb 3rd on the grid.
But the front row was the same as it had been time and time before this year. Prost and Senna forming the front row for the final duel. It would give Ron Dennis that rare smile.